It's interesting. It's a very different animal to a Boeing. There's no control column. It's a side stick. It's all about mass and inertia. It's about the size of the thing. Have you ever been on a canal boat?
Yeah.
Have you tried to steer one?
Yeah.
It's like that. If you remember, you put a steering input in, nothing happens for a little bit, so there's a lag. Then slowly it will start to move, and it will want to keep moving. That's the inertia side of it. So if you want to change the flight path of this thing, for instance, if you want to raise the nose, you pull the control column back, nothing happens for a little bit, slowly the nose will come up. More importantly, you want to keep moving. So just stopping pulling back doesn't stop the nose coming up.
Right.
So you actually have to physically check forwards in the opposite direction to stop that rotation. Right? This is your auto-flight control panel. If the autopilot's engaged, it will control the speed for you. You can control the altitude that you're going to fly to, 5,000 feet. And it will control where the airplane goes. Needless to say, we're going to spend most of the time with you hand flying, because any idiot can fly with the autopilot. Where's the fun in that? 4 engine instruments, obviously, 4 engines. If I open one of the thrust levers, just to demonstrate, nothing happens quickly in a jumbo, and that's by design, because you don't want things snapping about as your brake picks off. If I open one of the thrust levers, there's a power bar, slowly it winds up. When it gets there though, it means it. Just off one engine, that's 40,000 pounds of thrust, just off the one engine there. You've got your flap selector here, so when we come, that's the takeoff position. When we come into land, we'll select full flaps. After takeoff, we accelerate, and we bring the flaps all the way to the up position. And there's the undercarriage lever, down, up. You're going to be a bit busy when we first start going. It's very hard to tell just by looking out the window what the jumbo's doing. So that's why everything's referenced to nose pitch. So the angle of the nose above the horizon. So we're just going to be doing some sightseeing, so not too worried about the pink line. You can take it where it's your airplane, take it where you want. To keep the airplane tracking down the centre line, you want those centre line lights tracking down that notch in the windshield there. So at the moment we're a little bit to the right of the centre line, so as soon as we start to move we're going to come left a little bit. Just to get
Is there much delay on the rudder when it's on
the
ground?
A little bit. You'll feel it. The airspeed will start to increase, and we'll accelerate to our takeoff speed, which is being calculated for us by this performance computer as 130 knots. When we reach that, I will say rotate. And it's both hands on the control column, keep the wings level. And that's important because your instinct when we're going down the runway is to try and steer with the ailerons, which has no effect whatsoever. Just make sure you've got the wings level when we rotate. It's a nice, slow, steady pullback to get the nose to come up. Nothing will happen straight away. It will unstick, the nose will start to come up. That's when you just transfer your gaze down to that artificial horizon and you watch the little black box move up the screen, and you want to aim for your initial pitch attitude, which is 15 degrees of nose up. So there you go. Enough talking. So we see what you're made of. Let's go and have a little fly around, find our way to Silks Bay. Get used to flying the thing. Everybody all right in the back?
Yeah.
Good. So whenever you're ready, left hand on the thrust levers, all the checks are done, brakes are released, full power and off we go. Nothing happens quickly because it's a jumbo. Slowly it starts to wind up. So if you start putting some left rudder in now, big more, get it coming across, hold it in as you get to the middle, opposite rudder now, back again, so you've gone too far the other way, so right rudder, start to get
1000.
warnings from the flight system. Just to avoid that, we'd start trying to turn around to the right. Here's your bank indicator at the top.
Yeah.
Anything up to about 30 degrees is normal. There you go, so we avoided that. Roll the wings level again. And now's probably a good time to start thinking about levelling off. So if you start pushing forwards down to top out, I'll take the power off and you'll feel the nose want to drop. Really?
Yeah.
Okay. That's it. And the secret is to get it where you want it, let it settle down, because it takes a second or two to catch up with it. Well, that's it. Nice. Perfect. Nailed it. Now have a look at your vertical speed indicator on the right. Not far off at all. So, first lesson, let go of everything. Just let go. Nothing happens. Doesn't fall out of the sky. Doesn't burst into flames. So the one and only lesson you get in how to fly a 747 is imagine you've got a full point balance there. And you don't want to spill it. So in the movies, you see them doing all this, right? Look out the window. Absolutely nothing's happening. So it's nice, slow, steady movements. You're basically squeezing it with fingertips. Because we're heading towards this mountain, you're getting that terrain warning. It's brought you up the terrain map. Anything in red or amber is above us. So although it's steady in flight, it's basically a giant paper dart now, because you're not flying it. So it's going to need you to fly it. So let's just turn away from that. And the left. There you go. That's the secret, nice and smooth inputs with this thing. It doesn't respond to anything jerky or sharp. It just doesn't like it. Neither do the 350 people down the back. So it's your aeroplane, nobody's looking. Let's go exploring. I mean, let's try and go up this valley if you like. Lower the nose a little bit. When you lower the nose, it's like pointing a car downhill. The speed will run away. So I'm going to take some power off. That'll lower the nose even more. Let's get down and dirty. Come on, lower it. Just shove it down.
That's against my instincts.
I've never been up this valley, so I don't actually. I have no idea where he goes. Just try and follow the valley. So it gives you a feel for how much you have to anticipate turns. So if you start coming left now, needless to say, the computer's going to have a complete meltdown. And go. Now you can start going back the other way now, because you have to anticipate everything around here. So you can throw it around. Go, 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 go. So rolling the wings level now. So if you want, you know, you can get it moving. It's such a big thing.
Yeah, I don't think you did that maneuver.
Yeah? So that warning's getting really annoying now. So if we start climbing out, if you want to climb, you just raise the nose up to somewhere near 10 degrees. I'll put a bit of power on. Don't forget, as I put the power on, it wants to bring the nose up even further, so you have to compensate by just... That's it, perfect. And that's shut that up now, which is nice. Nicely done. Well done. So you're asking about trim. You just let go of the thing now. Let's see what it does. So we just get the wings level. If it's climbing or descending, you need to trim it out. So it's in a little gentle descent, which means we need to trim the nose up a little bit. And that's the two switches underneath your thumb there. So if you just give it a second blip downwards, that's probably a bit more than that. If you blip it like that, nothing happens much. You give it one, and let go. And then you just let go again, and you see what it's up to. It's in a bit of a climb, so probably didn't need that much. So first thing, before you trim it, get it to where you want it. So top hat, like that. Wait and see what it does. I'd say that's pretty much in trim, to be honest. But as we move around, you're going to start having to trim it quite significantly, so we'll have a little go at that later on. Right, let's have a look at the Autopilot. You've got 3 to choose from. You only normally use 1 in the cruise. So these are the Autopilot Selector buttons here. You press any one of those, you'll engage an Autopilot. So any one of those now. Right. So all the automatics are in now. So in front of you it says CMD, and that stands for command. That's telling you that the Autopilot's flying the aeroplane. And this is how we'd normally fly it. Not because you're lazy, but because it takes all the workload off you and allows you to concentrate on all the other 1,001 things that are going on. Not least of which is trying to find our way to Salzburg at the moment. So if air traffic was to say to us now, turn right and head 060 degrees, you just put 060 in that window there. Yep. So that's the instruction from air traffic. Right turn, head 060. If you look out the window, nothing's happening. It's not turning. And that's because we're in heading hold. And that's a really subtle distinction that you need to be aware of with this thing. What we need to do is get this selector knob to control what the aeroplane's doing. So we need to go into heading select. To do that, you press the end of that button there. You'll see heading hold changes to heading select. And the aeroplane turns. And it'll get round to 060 degrees and roll the wings level for you. Similarly, if they said to us now, descend to 6,000 feet, you put 6,000 in that window there. Once again, the altitude's not changing because it's still holding whatever it is. So the easiest way to go down is in what they call vertical speed mode. So if you press the vertical speed button, out changes to VS. Still nothing happens because you've got a vertical speed of 0, same as flying level. So you roll the wheel up and that selects the rate of descent. So if you put about 1,000 feet a minute, there like that, 1,200 feet a minute, see the altitude starts to decrease and it will fly down, and when it gets to 6,000 feet it'll level off, it'll raise the nose up to the top hat position exactly the same as you would have done, and VS will turn back to out. And of course what that does is lower the nose, so you actually barely have to do anything to initiate descent. Just the simple act of taking the power off starts the descent going. Keeps the speed at 250 knots, so we're back in manual thrust now. I've taken the auto thrust now, and you just have to keep an eye on that altimeter. As you approach 5,000 feet, you go back to the top hat position, but bear in mind I'm going to have to put a bit of power back on because you're raising the nose. You have to compensate for that. So it's a very dynamic thing to fly. The Airbus is very different. The Airbus, you don't get any of this because the computer does it all for you. So having said all that, when you level off at 5,000 feet, I'm actually going to leave the power where it is because I want the speed to start coming back now. So we're going to start slowing down. We're about 25 miles from Salzburg Airport. And even though you can't see it out the window, you know where it is. We're here, the airport's there, so it's over in that direction somewhere. I'm also going to start extending the flaps now, so that we can fly a little bit slower. You can see the nose keeps wanting to drop, so you probably need to trim down a bit. Don't blip it, you want 1, 2, something like that. That's about it.
Major trim indicator.
You can see we're still losing height, so just raise the nose slightly above the 5-degree line. There you go. You'll find you go into a nice gentle climb, get your height back up to 5,000 feet. Right, I'll show you a little trick because we're going to turn onto that pink line in a minute. If you dovetail to adjust your angle of bang to do a nice smooth turn. So let's try turning down that pink line now. So just keep an eye on that wavy dovetail. And that will tell you if you've got enough. Effectively what you want to do is keep that at a tangent to the pink line. So we are 20 miles from the end of the runway now. And as we get a bit closer and you line yourself up with that inbound track, we'll start to pick up the instrument landing system at Salzburg. So I don't know if you can see, right out in the distance there, can you see the runway lights? Base of the mountains. The sun's actually just coming up, so because this has got a lot of artificial intelligence in it, it may well switch those runway lights off before we get there. That's nice. So when you get the track running up and down this white line, it means you're pointing straight at the runway. And there's the runway symbol there, which is 16 miles in front of us. There you go, lovely. Right. So as we approach this dotted green line, that's a 10-mile ring around the airport. That's about the point where we need to start descending down towards the runway. So to achieve that, I'm going to put the wheels down, put some more flap out, and I'll take a whole load of power off. As you know, that'll lower the nose, which gets you going in the right direction. And you'll want to fly just slightly lower than top hat position. So I'll put the wheels down now. Flaps come out, power comes off. There we go. They just switched the runway lights off as well because the sun's come up. So we can't see the runway. Doesn't matter because we know exactly where we are. Here's your distance from the end of the runway, 12 miles. You're asking about the instrument landing system. And that's these two diamonds here. So when that one's in the middle there, it means you're lined up with the centre line of the runway. So it's showing us we're a little bit to the left of centre. And the secret with the jumbo is make all your corrections nice and early and make them small corrections. As you get back to the centre line, we want to point back at the runway, otherwise we'll shoot through the centre. So left turn, get the runway back up the top of the screen. Don't forget your pitch, that wants to be just below the top hat position. Right back there. Because we're a bit slow turning back towards the runway. Yeah, we've gone to the right of the centre line. You can use those instruments there. If we were in the cloud, that's how you'd be flying it. But you're lucky, it's a lovely sunny day. And as you get closer in, you'll be able to see those red and white approach path indicators. Here's the side of the runway. If you remember, 2 reds and 2 whites is good. That means you're on the approach path. If you've got...
Just trying to slide that time.
That's it. Not far out. And this is how you fly it, just nice, gentle, smooth corrections like that. Just coming good now to start turning back towards the right. When you start transitioning visual, looking out the window, there's a slight crosswind from your right hand side, so you'll find that the nose will actually point just off to the right of the runway as we come in, and that's you laying off the drift, compensating for the crosswind. Nice. So if you look out the window, lined up the runway, there's your red and white lights either side of the touchdown point. You've actually got 2 reds and 2 whites. That's absolutely spot on. And you just keep it coming down like this. This is as exciting as it gets because you've made it nice and smooth. We could have made it exciting, but you know. Well, it is hard to keep up with the aeroplane. The aeroplane will do it, but you've really got to be on the ball. It's not designed to be flown like that. settle nicely onto the ground.
The diamond's off to the right a bit.
What do you reckon looking out the window? I reckon it's about spot on.
Not bad with the crossfit.
That's right. Just lower the nose, just a tiny smidge. There you go. Hold it there.
200.
So basically it's wings level now. It's too late to do anything about anything. Hold it there, let it come down.
50. 40.
Now it's coming off.
22.
Left rudder, just get us back on the centre line, that's enough. Thrust reversers are coming in, bit of right rudder. Cancel the thrust. Welcome to Salzburg. Nicely done. Now relax.
There's a lot to take on board.
Wow.
So, let's go somewhere more interesting. How do you fancy doing that Hong Kong that you saw on the...
Let's give it a go. What's the worst that could happen?
So, have you been to Hong Kong?
When I was about 4 or 5, yeah.
Okay.
On the way to Bangkok, I think we stopped.
Right.
Stop over.
Well, the runway that you saw on the video is the old Kai Tak airport. It's no longer operational. It does still exist. It's a ferry terminal now and a car park, but it still lives on in the simulator here. So they built a new airport, a place called Chet Lak Kok, and that's where we're starting from, which is the new airport. So this is Lantau Island, just on the right. Hong Kong itself is the other side of that control tower, a bit further over. So what we'll do is take off from here, climb up to about 3,000 feet or so, have a little fly around Hong Kong just to show you the lay of the land, and then we'll come back over the top of this airport about 5,000 feet and start our approach into the old Kai Tak airport. Full power and off we go. Big handful of thrust, bring it back to about here where my hand is. So about now. That'll lower the nose, keep coming back. Back, 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 back. About there. Lower the nose down to the top hat position. There you go. So that's Hong Kong over there, where all the lights are. Don't worry about your height, we're just going to have a little fly around. So it consists of two parts. You've got your mainland Hong Kong. If you start turning around towards the lights now, which is Kowloon, and then there's Hong Kong Island. Just roll the wings level there on that sort of heading. Lower the nose a touch. The runway, Kai Tak Airport, is right in front of us. And down on the left-hand side, there's loads of high ground down there. So the reason you can't land straight in is because of all these hills. If you lower the nose a touch, when we come into land in a minute, we'll come down over your right shoulder, over those lights, and then we'll do a curved right-hand turn towards the runway. So just let me know when you can see the runway.
I think I can see it now, yeah.
See, it's just that spit of
Yeah.
strip
the
of
runway?
land. That's it. Going out into the harbour there. I don't know if you can make it out, but right in front of us, in the middle of the built-up area, and amongst all those flashing white lights, there's one single steady white light. It's like a horizontal bar of light. Can you see it?
Yeah.
That's the beginning of the approach guidance into the runway that we're going to land on. So we'll just fly down towards that now and I'll show you basically how that's going to work.
So we're going to do quite a turn then.
Yeah, well, yeah,
Last minute.
I'll show you in a minute. It gets clearer as we get closer in. So as we get closer, you can see running away from that white bar of light, there's a curve of running strobe lights, running rabbit strobe lights. So we're going to come down over your right shoulder, we'll cross that white light about 600 feet, and then we'll just basically follow the curve of lights around the corner. Land on Kaitak there. Simple as that.
It's a scary landing. It's quite scary landing.
Right. So this time we haven't got any ILS to help us out. So it's going to be pretty much a visual approach. The problem we've got is how do we arrive over that white light at 600 feet? Okay.
Yeah.
As with always, it being a jumbo, there's a really simple, elegant visual representation of how you need to do it. And it's effectively a vertical equivalent of that waggy dogtail. It's that waggy dogtail gives you lateral guidance, and I'll show you how we're going to get there. So what we'll do is put 600 feet in this altimeter window to start with. As before, put the wheels down, select some flaps, and we'll start a nice gentle descent. When we do, you'll see this green arc that's been flashing about up here. That is your predicted point at which you'll, on the map, at which you will reach whatever height you set in there, if that makes sense. So if you push the nose forwards, it comes towards you. If you pull it back, it goes away. So if you can keep it over that point there, which is the white light, RW, that's close enough. You know, we can fettle it later on. But that's all you need, just get it roughly right. So you know you're in the ballpark. The one thing you don't want to be on this approach is low. You'll end up in somebody's front room.
It's just information overload, isn't it?
Doing great.
Very nice. So it's all nice and relaxed. And as with everything jumbo, it's all no dramas, no shouting, no screaming, no rushing around like a one-armed paper hanger. It's everything's sorted out miles back there, and it all started on the ground when we took off, where we actually had a briefing about what we were going to do. So you know what the plan is, and that's what flying these big aeroplanes is all about. It's having a plan, staying ahead of the aeroplane, always having a contingency, always having a way out. And all you have to do is just fly the aeroplane, fly the plan, and in the back of your head you know what the next step's going to be. You've got to always stay one step ahead of it, otherwise the aeroplane flies you.
Okay, so we're a bit left of heading, left of...
Yeah, that's right. Well, we're heading towards that white light now. That pink line is a slightly different approach. We're flying we're flying a visual approach into this now. Do you remember? Have you heard of the checkerboards?
Yes. Yeah.
I'll show you those as we get closer in. The sun's only just coming up, so they might be a bit hard to make out. So the checkerboards, it's to the left of that white light, up a bit on top of that hill. You can just see that there's a pair of them. Just see them coming in now, like a reddy pink smudge on top of the hill. So here we come, coming up to this white light now, and the altitude is just about smack on 600 feet. Perfect. So all we're going to do Start a gentle right turn around to the right, remembering to keep the descent going, so round we go. Keep the nose going down, because everybody forgets to descend in the turn, you end up a bit high. Hold the wings level. There you go, back to normal.
100.
Nicely done, perfectly lined up, a little bit of a crosswind from the right again. Just keep it like that, keep the wings level. Keep the wings level, slight left hand down. Don't let the nose drop. A bit of right rudder.